So it's late in the evening, so I'm not going to go far with this. But I'm going to start this video, so thanks for coming back. I have put the roof partially in place. Let's take a better look and I'll show you what I'm doing. So the decorative piece of roof is partially in place, located on one side, and the other side is resting on top. I've marked a little mark just there, so I'm going to take off this side and see what happens. As you can see, I've cut in the side, and most of the way cutting through. I just thought I'd show you that before I finished it off, and then I'll tidy it up with the file. We'll give that a try. I've just given it a quick clean up with the file, deburr, and round the corners. The difficult bit with this has been finding a way to hold it without damaging the paint. I mean, the paint's not perfect, but at least, I mean, that's just a bit of muck on there. Not perfect, but if I gripped it in the vise, it would get a lot worse. So my reason for only doing one side was the other side will keep a bit more rigidity in the corner. Let's see how that goes. There we go. Okay, so it turns out the fit of it isn't brilliant on the spectacle plate, but at least it sort of finishes it off. I may even make a dummy load of coal which sits on top of there, so it can just be lifted off and when it's not being used. So the next thing we're going to look at is the whistle. I've been looking around the stuff that I've got at home. Well, first of all, I've been looking at the original whistle, and you won't be able to see, but it's that side. The voice slot, the slot that allows the steam through, looks too big to me. So I thought, oh, I'll start again. I'll make one to the design that I used when I did the chime for the Duke of York, the big 482. But I haven't got any big diameter tube. I would have liked about 1 inch, but I've got some 5/8, and I've got a bit of brass and a bit of I've got the bits I need to make the whistle. Let's have a look. So these are all I need to make the whistle. I mean, I could use that diameter, cut it to the same length as the old one, then it'll fit in the same place, but I wasn't necessarily fussed about where it was on the engine. We'll take a look at that in a moment and I'll show you why. Obviously, if you go smaller in diameter, you make the length to diameter ratio different, which changes the pitch. Diameter should, like, if you increase everything together, you should increase the volume. But if you increase one or the other, either the diameter or the length, then you will change the pitch. So I've got a drawing here. It's quite a clever design. You put a sleeve over the outside. So rather than make your slot on the piece that gets soldered in inside, might be able to see this. What we do, we bring the plug inside, put a groove in it, it comes past the slot, and then you put a collar over the outside, as you can see there, which then therefore creates the voice slot steam gap, and the steam gap becomes the tube thickness. So I will have another look, see what we've got, and let's go and have a look at where it was on the engine. So it was down here between the frames. A couple of reasons for not wanting to put it back there, not least because I hope to put a lot of extra weight down there. What I'm planning is to put it through that gap between the boiler and the tank, much like this 5-inch one has been done. So let's have another look for some material and then have a go at making one. Out of interest, here are the 3 I made for the Duke. and we're going to do similar for the Jinty. And if I can find it, I'll send you a little video, show you a little video right now on how that sounds. I quite like it. Whether it's the right 3 notes for the chime, I don't know. It never existed, so you can't really say it's the wrong note. So right, back to the Jinty, and we're looking for some material. So as well as the stuff I found for the original, the stuff I already had, I found this bigger bit of tube, which is a nice diameter, should give us a nice loud whistle. I just need to cut it to a suitable length and make the bits for it. What I'll probably do is I'll make both of them, and then I can try them both on the engine and see what works. But I also found this very small bit of tube, so we might make another little whistle just for the fun of it. So they're the bits made for the whistle. Just turn them up on the lathe. That will go in the end. I just need to cut the slot out of there. So as you can see, if that overhangs the slot, the steam can get out that gap. Hence that collar goes over, covering it all up. And then where the tube is missing, the ring means there's a gap, the thickness of the tube, for the steam to get out. And then just a plug for the far end. So I've clamped this in the vise, and I'm going to cut down until I hit the vise and then file across. I might actually move it down a bit so it's not quite so deep, but that's the plan. And I've got all my blood, sweat and tears in this, so see how it goes. So as you can see, that's worked quite nicely. You can see where the steam comes out in that little gap there. Hence, put that collar over the top, and the steam comes up that slot and hits there. Hopefully it will make a nice noise. We don't expect it to make the best noise on mouth pressure. If it did, I'd be worried, because we're going to put a lot more pressure than that into the engine, and it's going to be hot and it's going to be steam rather than air as well. So all that left is for that to be soldered up. So as you can see, I've used the flux soft solder paste in that end and around the bottom here. It's all over the plug that's been put in, but I thought I'd show you this. I've put it down there so that as I move that down into place, it doesn't push any of the solder flux over the gap that where we want the solder to be. So where we want the steam to come through. We don't want solder. So let's start soldering. I'm hoping that came out all right. This, and I'm hoping the video came out all right on time lapse. You can see I even did put some solder around the inside there, but the slot is clear, and I've done this end as well. So when that cools down, we can give it a clean up and give it a try, either on air or with the engine at the weekend. So I've made the bits for this one. That's the plug that goes in the other end. Once again, the sleeve that goes over the outside, and that to go through the middle. But I'm a firm believer that you should admit mistakes and learn from the mistakes. And in this case, hopefully let other people learn from my mistakes. So when I made this piece, obviously you can see where it gets drilled through the centre and then filed through from the side to let the steam out. I could have drilled through the side like a banjo bolt, wouldn't have made a difference. I think I've done it that way in the past, but I misjudged the depth I drilled and I've gone right through. So I could either start again, make a new one, but I'm very limited for the material in that size. So what I've done, I found a rivet the right size, and I'll solder that in at the same time as soldering the rest up. Let's go. So while I wait for that second one to cool down, I have cleaned up the first one, put it in the lathe, got rid of the pimple from the end, cleaned off the excess solder and just gave it a polish up with some emery. I've also charged the compressor, so hopefully it should work. Touch wood, other one does the same. So I've just taken the second one out the lathe, having cleaned it. I don't know what it's going to do yet. Let's give it a try. I deliberately left this shorter in comparison. They're both the same, more or less the same length. It's slightly longer, the big one. However, it should give a comparison of the different notes that they make, because this is a much bigger diameter, but about the same length. There it goes. Okay, it's loud. There's a lot. Whether it'll be the same on steam, I don't know. And it's a little bit higher pitch, I think. Let's try them one after the other. Lower. So the bigger one, same diameter, is a bit lower in pitch. At the moment, this one sounds better. There may be a reason for that. I think I made things a bit too thin on this one. You can see it's turned down here. It was very thick wall brass tube. There you go. Very thick wall. Ideally you only want it 20 thou, something like that, half a mil thick, whereas that's twice that at least. Also with that I might have made it a bit too thin. I forget what thickness I went to. I aimed for 15, but I might have gone too thin. And the ring that went around the outside, that was quite thin as well. So the gap wasn't overly consistent. Where I made it a good fit, it might have distorted a bit, changing the shape of the gap. So that would all contribute to different noises and different quality of noise that it makes. So yeah, all that's left is to put them on the engine. And so on Sunday when we steam the engine, do a boiler test, I can put one on and then the other, decide which one I prefer the sound of, and stick with that. So that's it, that's whistles. I'll see you next time. I don't know what we're doing next. I haven't decided yet. So take care, good to see you. Thanks for watching, and please do come back next time. Please subscribe, it all helps. So yeah, thanks very much, take care. So I've just come in, I've just washed my hands, and a tune came into my head thinking about whistles, and that was, of course, Whistle While You Work, which is completely coincidental with the jumper I was wearing. So there you go. Take care, come back soon, see you later.